Hello and welcome back to my channel, Midlife Revamped. Today, I am going to talk about all the things that I did not know when I was 18, but I wish I had, and how we are teaching our kids and having these conversations with them. So the first thing would be retirement accounts. When I was 18, I definitely did not know anything about retirement accounts. I think my parents barely knew. They were immigrants and they were just on survival mode. So I believe I didn't start contributing to an employer sponsored retirement account until I was in my early 20s when I got my first full time position. So, I mean, I did okay. I started in my 20s. I contributed to a 401k and probably just contributed the minimum amount, 3 to 6%. I think that perhaps there was some sort of company match, but maybe not every single job I've ever had offered an employer match or employee match program. So I did contribute. I did not really make the connection that an IRA or a Roth IRA is something that you could have in addition to a 401k. So I had heard of an IRA, but I only opened one when I left an employer and I had to roll over that 401k into an IRA. So I had an IRA in that sense, but I didn't even think about opening one up in addition to a 401k. So when our oldest turned 16 and got his first job, I helped him open up a Roth IRA for minors. And it's something you can do where you open that account for them because they are still minors, and you attach their social security number and you can help them max it out. So within that first year, we were able to have him max out his IRA. So already at 16, he's got a good amount that he's starting his life out with, which makes me feel great since it's not something that we were able to do when we were 18. That's the first thing that we've been teaching our kids is retirement accounts, putting money aside for retirement starting at a younger age because they have time on their side, and that's the best thing that I feel that we could do for them to max it out. So retirement accounts, that's the first one. The second thing is to learn a skill. During the pandemic in 2020, I unfortunately had my position eliminated. I was running a department, and shortly after my position was eliminated, they closed the entire department. So, needless to say, there were a lot of emotions. I started reflecting on all the different things that I could do in terms of income, and I realized that I, while I was in the professional world and working my way up the corporate ladder, I hadn't really acquired any skills that I could comfortably monetize. So I started having these conversations with our kids to somehow acquire skills that they could lean on in the event that they need extra income, which I think we could all use extra income. So things that could hopefully not be replaced by AI. A while ago, we were taking our kids to my husband's former colleague's garage, and they were getting their haircut out of this guy's garage. So he was making, I know, several $100s, if not more, a month just cutting people's hair in his garage on the side. So I always bring that up with the kids. I say, not necessarily that they should learn how to cut hair, but that's an example. My youngest is a musician, so sometimes we talk about, hey, could you teach music classes and private music lessons in the future? That could be something to think about, whether it's the full-time occupation or something on the side. It's just so important to acquire those skills, and it's not anything that we had ever talked about. My parents had never brought that up when we were growing up. So something that I wish I knew at the age of 18, and we're teaching our kids that. So the third thing I wish I knew when I was 18 is to learn how to cook like 2 to 5 dishes that you could put on rotation. Uh, Simple meals that you can just kind of turn to when you need to prepare a meal for yourself. I think about this, I've said this many times, I didn't learn how to cook. My mom was the type of person who just kind of did everything for us. She was too exhausted to even think about imparting any of her knowledge over to her kids. And I'm definitely not blaming my mom. She had this mental load, this scarcity mindset that just things were never enough. And so she couldn't even possibly think about the future. She was just kind of on a day to day survival mode, and she just kind of did everything for us. So I've spent the better part of my adult life learning how to cook, and it's been a struggle. I mean, when the kids were little, our firstborn never had any homemade baby food. And I know it sounds really kind of privileged, like you make your own baby food. I don't know. He had the jars of baby food, and maybe if you think about it, those end up being more expensive. They're not as healthy. But I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to make anything. So I have come a long way since then. But it's something that I think about all the time, teaching the kids just this idea of learning how to make a couple of dishes. And if you have little kids, you can start off with teaching them how to boil pasta or make rice or cook some eggs, make toast. I mean, really basic things, and then kind of like work up from there. So that's something that I didn't know when I was 18 that we're definitely teaching our kids at a much younger age to learn how to prepare their own meals, because it's going to help. Number four would be to automate your savings. I've said this to some of my nieces and nephews, and definitely to our kids over and over again, is once they start earning their own income, maybe at around 16 years old, they're not going to have a lot of bills. I mean, maybe some kids do, but if your kids don't have a lot of bills, rather than spending every single penny that they make, teach them to put away some of their savings. So we've been teaching our oldest for a very long time. He is almost 19 years old now, so he's been making his own money for 3 years, 3 years, and we've been reminding him, put away money. You never know when you're going to need extra cash. And it's important to start that nest egg when as soon as possible. So automating it would make it a lot easier. So he has a couple of accounts that we've started for him. When he turned 18, we had to switch them from custodial minor accounts to his own. So now he's 100% managing his own finances, and we've been teaching him to just, when those paychecks come in, a certain percentage goes automatically into a savings account, and from there we haven't been able to automate his retirement fund just because he's not making a consistent income, not full time. So we have the savings automated, but from there we make contributions to his retirement account. So I totally recommend talking to your kids about automating their savings once they get to a point where they are making their own income. So the fifth thing that I wish I knew at the age of 18 is to not fall victim to lifestyle inflation. So lifestyle inflation is this concept where as your income increases, so do your expenses. And what often happens is you don't even realize it until it's too late. So maybe you get a promotion and you get a nicer car, or you buy a bigger home, or these days with subscriptions, you add more subscriptions. This idea of lifestyle inflation definitely happened with us. We are so guilty of it, and we are doing our very best to have these conversations with our kids to stay within their means and to only purchase items that they've thought about and that they actually need. The sixth thing is to speak with confidence. There are some things that I definitely didn't learn until much, much later. Lots of them. And speaking with confidence is not something that we were taught. And maybe it's a cultural thing. In the Asian culture, you're taught to be humble and be quiet, not make any noise. But I think there is a way to be confident without being boastful, to be proud without being arrogant, and it's a kind of a good balance, and it's something that we're teaching our kids. When you meet somebody, to look them in the eyes, and I know this is a very American concept, but looking someone in the eyes is generally something you do to show respect and confidence. That making eye contact and smiling and introducing yourself and your loved ones is something I wasn't really ever taught either. So I think that that's really important when kids, my kids' friends come over and I've never met them before. It's really important to me that they're taking introducing us to their friends and vice versa. So that's another thing that we're teaching them. I mean, we were definitely taught how to say please and thank you and minor manners, but I think for us, what we're teaching our kids, I think it extends beyond that. And the seventh thing that we are hoping for, I would say that this was something that our parents sort of encouraged, but it kind of didn't work out. Well, I wish when I was 18, I really understood this, but to learn another language, when you grow up in America, you don't have the privilege of learning another language. We are given the option in high school, but by then it's a little too late, in my opinion. And I know in other countries, they are teaching kids from when they are very little to speak more than one language. So, my husband and I are both first generation Americans. His first language was Spanish. My first language was Mandarin. Now, he still speaks Spanish, so he is bilingual. I am not bilingual. And when I'm analyzing this whole situation, I feel as though the biggest difference between why he was able to retain his primary language or his first language was that he grew up with Spanish speaking parents that sort of enforced speaking that language at home. And his parents spoke that language to each other and they spoke the language to their kids. My parents spoke Indonesian to each other, technically an Indonesian dialect, Javanese. So they spoke that language to each other and they spoke Mandarin to us. They taught us Mandarin. So by the time we got to school and we brought English home, it was a big struggle. We wanted to do whatever we could to fit in. So that meant sort of erasing our culture, so to speak, which is sad, but that's just the reality of it. And now I am regretful and I am relearning the language. So I really am trying to teach the kids that it's important to learn another language. Our oldest has done very well with Spanish. He is now conversational, but he had to learn that on his own. We did we did enroll him in some private language lessons. He learned it in high school, and he's just got the motivation to learn on his own. But not every kid is motivated to pick up second language. So that's something that we've been kind of talking to our kids about, and hopefully they can grow up to be adults who are bilingual. And finally, traveling. I feel like it is a very privileged mindset. I definitely was not born privileged. When my husband and I started our family, we made this decision that we would do whatever we can to take our kids around the world and take ourselves around the world because we didn't grow up traveling. So we've been able to take them to a couple of places overseas in Asia and Europe and different places in the United States. But I feel as though traveling teaches everyone what we can't learn in the classroom. So if you could do it, then something that I think is a great thing. So we've been kind of teaching our kids to think about that as they move through life when they're younger, 18 and, independent. start making up their own money, to kind of consider incorporating that into their life before they start their own family and it becomes a little bit more difficult. So there you have it. These are the 8 things that I wish I knew when I was 18 that we are teaching our children. Thanks for watching.